Here's a quick look into today's episode.
I feel bad at the time because I wasn't around a lot for my family because my wife knew I had to give everything to be the best B-1 aviator. And that was a lot of flights, a lot of in the vault studying. You know, those 3 years, I was not home a lot. That's just, we knew. We talked a lot about this throughout every step we were going to take, like what I needed to do to get to the next step. And we knew when I went to the 9th, I had to be the best B-1 aviator there for my squadron. So I was flying a lot of extra lines. I was taking the TDYs. I was going on the courses, going on the training events just to be part of the bats. That led me to finishing mission qualification training, getting my call sign, earning that name of SERE, going on my first deployment to the deed, first time dropping a combat bomb and going to war. And that war actually was the last time the B-1 was in CENTCOM. So in 2019, we left the deed as the last B-1 squadron to ever be deployed there for 6 months.
What are the first things that go through your mind when you say, I'm starting all over again?
I think the reason I use that so much is it helps me understand and not have so much expectations for if I fail. Because I know I'm going to mess up. I know I'm not going to know. I don't know everything, so I'm starting over. It allows me to clearly express where I'm at and be a sponge and learn everywhere I go. Like in none of those situations was I the expert. When I started B-1 school, I didn't know anything about the B-1, so I couldn't go in and chaff or ignore what some of my instructors were saying because I thought I knew more. I was taking it all in. I was a fresh student every time I started over. And that allowed me to listen more and take it and just soak it in. It almost allowed me, like where it says check your ego at the door, like that's what I was doing every time. I was forgetting survival school instructor Manny, who has all this military experience as a B-1 FTU guy, like that has nothing to do with the B-1. So when I'd walk into these classrooms, I would just be like, hey, I'm here to learn, guys. Like, teach me, like, what can I learn today? Same as a deployment, I was relying heavily on my air crew who had deployed before, my hard crew I was with. I was with a great instructor pilot. Mr. was his call sign, and he deployed before. So I was the young guy on the crew as the Wizzo, and I was like, hey, sir, or Mr., I'm new, I'm starting over again, teach me. It allows me just to open up a little more, put everything to the side, and focus on what is right in front of me. And that's where I learned about leading by example. Take care of yourself, being there for your family. Because I saw those people there do it, and I was like, man, if they could do it, why can't I? Why am I using the excuse of the military being the busy for me to not prioritize my health like so many people in the military do? It was normal. I think it still is normal. We're trying to make that shift. And so when I came back from there, I said, Andy Frisella talks about be selfless, you have to be selfish. It's my number 2 leadership trait. To be better for my kids now and my wife, I need to be better for myself. And that time allowed me to now give way more time to my family. The leadership excuse I hear is, I don't have time, right? Commanders or colonels don't have time to get to know the guys to below them to help them. Well, you've shown it. If I just go on a 60-minute jog at a 10-minute pace, I can build a lot of trust in that hour. You talk about it, you go on runs and talk to people. That's the secret. That's why I have people come to my house to work out, so I can build those relationships there. The one area that we all have commonality in, probably in the military or in life, is probably health and wellness and exercise, because we all have to do it. There's only one way to get better at it. You got to get uncomfortable. You got to challenge yourself. You can't eat shitty food. If I can start there building trust, opening up to them, sharing my journey, they will open up to me and prioritize my life. Balance is tough, right? But prioritize what's important to me. How do I maintain that? That's where I'm at now. I've done a lot of crazy things, physically, hardship, demanding on my body, that anybody could probably be like, dude, Manny, why don't you just take a break? You probably see where you're at, people are like, sir, why are you always running for an hour every morning? You don't have to. There's colonels out there that probably don't run, why are you still running? But you're like, I have to keep doing it. Before, I would give you a bunch of excuses, right? The old Manny would give you excuses like, oh, it's fine, life's gonna knock you down, or don't worry about your health right now. That's what old Manny would say, because he wasn't leading by example in those areas. You probably have those conversations too, where even if it's your kids, and you're like, just go do it. I don't want to call them excuses, but these reasons. I go, you have to do it. You have to take ownership. I heard a line, I think it's persistency is what keeps you going. Consistency is what gets you results. I'm not doing it for me anymore. I'm doing it for people. I'm doing it for everybody else. I have done all my hard stuff. I have ran my marathons. I'll still do more, but now I do it for them. Everything now has transitioned to the people. You know how it is as a leader, you come to that point where you're not leading yourself anymore, you're leading the people. That's really important. I still have to do me, which I've established it in my habits and my routine and my discipline, but it's not my focus, because it's It's like muscle memory now, right? Like working out, eating good, drinking my water. That's all habits. I need to show everybody now and help them build those habits.
Welcome to another episode of Teach Me to Fish, where our purpose is to help leaders better understand what drives people. In today's world, the core of recruiting and retaining talent revolves around leadership. And not just average leadership, but motivated, values-based, inspirational leadership. Our purpose is to get a little bit better every day. Progress equals small victories and stacking habits. Habits like getting up early, working your butt off, learning something new, being positive, and surrounding yourself with phenomenal people. My man.
What's up, boss? Can you hear me?
I can. Looking good.
Yeah, I got the headphone decently charged. If not, we'll have to go to the computer, but it should work. So.
Oh man, I'm so glad we finally get to do this.
I'm pumped, dude. Like, I'm nervous. I'm pumped. I'm excited. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I when I got up this morning, obviously I've been putting notes together like the last few days and stuff like that. But like this morning, I got up and I said, I gotta bring it today more than normal. I said, I better go for a long run. I better go out there. I better be sweaty when I turn it on. I better be doing the things that I say I do, or Manny's gonna call me on it, or he's gonna see it, and I better bring the energy, man.
Oh man, no, I appreciate it. I was thinking earlier, it's been a while since I've been a guest on a show, and so it's always fun because you learn, right, as you're a guest, because you see what they do, how they're doing it, what their notes look like, what their script is like. And so you take all these little pieces and I'm just like, all right, cool. I like this. I like that. All right, let's just go do this. And
And it's not just like podcast stuff. It's like, I think it's just life. It's life conversations. And it's the, it helps when you got to go into a room and people got to ask for your guidance or your recommendation. Like, how did you prepare for what we're doing today versus like, how did you prepare for that? Like the questions that they might ask, or, the decisions that they might need from you as a leader. Like, how are you prepared? I read it this morning. It said you can be surprised once, but after that, you're just unprepared.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same with like mistakes, right? Like my biggest thing, I tell a lot of the airmen, I'm like, dude, I'll mess up once, but I will never try to make that same mistake again.
Yeah, amen.
That's usually the biggest thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about like a roadmap of like how the conversation goes, the things that I wanted to make sure that we get into it. And for you, like we can talk about anything at any moment, at any time. And I just wanted to real quickly kind of say like, this is kind of the main theme with you that I think about when I hear your name is like conviction and attitude and discipline, and I'm gonna want to learn as much as I can from you today in those areas. I want to go through the why you joined, why you stayed, and what's got you fired up the most right now. I want to go through in a little bit of detail because not a lot of folks in the Army know exactly what the things that you do out there, and going from SERE and then becoming an officer and then being on a B-1 and like that's cool. Like you will be the first person, you won't be the first pilot. Drew Morgan was the first pilot, an astronaut, but like you will be able the first B-1 guy that's going to kind of explain that to us. Yeah. So don't assume that anybody listening or any of us know what that is. And then I want at some point when it comes on in your head of what was like that tipping point to become either an officer, or that tipping point at which you got into the fitness goals and the fitness that you're doing and how you're helping everybody right now. And then we'll wrap things up towards the end with how you can help each of us. And if there's somebody that's out there, even like me, like that's, struggling in a certain area of your health or your fitness or your mindset, like what would be that advice that kind of where we would wrap up. How does that sound for a good conversation today?
Dude, sounds amazing.
Yeah. Well, thanks, brother. And we can go and start off in anywhere, any way, but like one, I always start off with like what you want people to feel when they hear your name. But you always start off with the 3 H's, and you always, so like if you could you kind of combine the 3 H's and what you want people to feel when they hear your name? Try to combine those into who is Manny Lamson.
It's funny. right before this show, I was like, man, what if he starts with the three H's that I do? And I was like, shoot, I have yet to answer that on my show. And so I was like, just thinking about it, I was like, who would I say? What would I do? But yeah, so the three H's for the background is the very first guest I had on my show, an Army recruiter, Columba, who has worked with you in the past. He got me introduced to Sergeant Curry as well on my show. So he was interviewing with our base commander to become an officer. And the first question that commander asked him was the three H's. And so he told me that. He was like, dude, your commander asked me this during the interview. And I was like, oh, dude, that's perfect. I'm going to throw that in on my show. And so for me, three H's, hometown heroes and hardships. I grew up in Northern California, small town of Gridley and Corning. My dad he was in the military, met my mom in Germany. They moved back to California where his family was raised. So small towns, about 5,000 people, had about 130 people in my senior class. Very small Catholic schools or Catholic towns, just country life, very blue collar country life. My dad worked at a tire store his whole life. So I learned a lot, and that'll transition. And one of my first heroes is him. I learned a lot about customer service, taking care of people, because that's all he did. He was a manager, and everywhere I went with him on road drives was, hey, this is Mr. So-and-so, this is Mr. So-and-so. So I grew up with last names first, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Same as my high school coach. He's a very father role model that I had as well. And those male figures just really instilled in me the knowledge I have today, but I didn't realize it until I started podcasting or until you become a father, You don't see, I didn't see any of that when I was enlisted because it just wasn't really my focus. But now that I do the shows and I hear from people and I'm like, man, I remember my dad teaching me that. So my dad is the first one because without his knowledge and with his wisdom and all the stuff he teaches me, one of the big rules that he taught me at an early age that I still use today is never turn down an offer from somebody, no matter how big or small, because you never know if they're going to offer it again or how important that offer is. And those can be so important. That can be as simple as, do you want my leftover lunch? Or do you want this drink? Or do you want this help? And so I tell a lot of people, I'm like, man, whenever somebody offers you something, no matter how big or small, don't say no. Even if you aren't hungry or you don't need that book or something, take it, because that takes a lot of courage to offer somebody something. And so that's one thing I still pass on to this day. My second hero, being a sports fan, it's not Tom Brady or Kobe, which are really high, but it's a non-standard one, is Jason Kidd. So Jason Kidd was my idol growing up basketball. He was selfless when he played the game, obviously one of the best point guards out there. I watched him in New Jersey from the Suns. Obviously, he went to the Mavericks and coached over there for a little bit. But his game was how I grew up. I was a small kid, in my high school. I wasn't the best shooter. I wasn't the best this. So whenever we played games in our pickup in our middle school, we all played as our players that we had. My buddy was always Peja. My other buddy was always Kobe Bryant, So we all had our favorite players. And I was always Jason Kidd when we played, because they knew I could pass the ball. I could shoot if I had to, but I didn't shoot a lot. And I was just gritty. And I think Jason Kidd really instilled a lot of that, was that he played very gritty, for how small he was, even though he was a bigger point guard. But so Jason Kidd and my dad, and then obviously Tom Brady and Kobe are just phenomenal in everything they do. So those are my heroes right there. Hardship, man, there's so many. It's that is hard. If I go off of recency, it was not getting selected for TAC-PO. That was a huge gut punch for me. So 2024, I was in a pickle in my career, not knowing what I want to do in the B-1. And this will probably come up later when we talk about those tipping points. And what kept me in was sort of failing. I was in an attached squadron as a flyer on a deployment by myself. And so sometimes as an officer in the Air Force, you get tasked to go on a deployment to fill a role somewhere outside of your job. And so this role was at Shaw Air Force Base, working at the KOC. That's sort of detached from Al Udeid, where the other part of the KOC was in Qatar. And I was there knowing when I came back to Dias, I would have to figure out what to do with my career. I would either have to go fly the B-1 or go do something else. But that was also when I was in the best shape of my life, or I stay in the best shape, but I'm always trying to stay in the best shape. And so I had this opportunity to sort of expand my career, do something a little different, challenge myself. So I saw an opportunity to cross train, which is very rare for any officer in the Air Force. And this opportunity was to be a TAC POs, the TAC Ps that work on the ground with the Army, the JTACs. They now have an officer job, which is very hard and very demanding.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pass the IFT to enroll into it. So it's the 3-mile run, 200-meter swim, 250-meter underwaters, pull-ups, sit-ups, and push-ups, all with certain requirements. And I was interested. I was curious. I was like, what's going to keep me going? Like, what is going to keep me going to retirement? So I met with a bunch of TAC P people. I had a bunch of connections. They're like, Manny, you'd be perfect. You're in shape. You're a B-1 guy. You've worked with JTACs on the ground. You have that relationship. Go apply, go apply. Worked with my commanders, got my release, and it was all looking good. I was like, okay, cool. I passed the IFT. I even went down to Lackland, San Antonio, where the TAC P school is, and had the DO of one of the squadrons give me the test. So I had that opportunity to meet a TAC PO and show him like I was serious.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the phase 1 selection. Had all my letters of recs and everything. Got selected for phase 2, which is sort of like their like initiation week, sort of like a hell week.
Yeah.
It's 5 days, and it's insane. Like, I've never been so beat down mentally or physically in my life, which was amazing. I mean, I've done some tough training going through SERE, but it was what I needed. And at that time, I don't know if you ever heard the expression garbage in, garbage out, or if live by the gouge, die by the gouge. Well, I died by the gouge.
Yeah.
I went in thinking they knew who I was as an applicant. Like, they knew I was a prior B-1 guy. I was a prior SERE guy. And so I was told, hey, Manny, just go down there. They're not going to like look at all your leadership stuff because they're going to know who you are. They're going to want to see how you do as a follower, as a soon-to-be major. You have all this experience. How are you going to take followership or be a servant leader to these young academy guys or cross trainees that have never led? They want to see that from you. And I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. So we get down there. Obviously, they're assigning tasks to grade everybody. And then I'm sort of like sitting in the back, like, cool, this guy can take that. This guy will do this. I'll do whatever they say. I'll make sure I, just be the best follower I can be. Throughout the course, I'm crushing all the physical stuff. I'm building the rapport with the people. I'm thinking it's all going good. And then it starts to click on me as they're talking that this is a blind selection. They know nothing about us. Like, I was just roster 08 the whole time. Like, that was my name. I still have that sticker on my laptop to remind me every time I look at it, like, I was roster 08. So that gouge of me not leading hindered me going through because I didn't step up when I should have.
Yeah.
I didn't do this when I should have. And that's what they were looking for.
Yeah.
And at the last day, it's Friday night. We all get through and we're waiting till the next morning when they tell us we passed, and they go, hey, the commander's here. We're going to do the selection tonight. Get ready. You're going to report through here. And he's either going to say you're selected or you're not selected. And I'm like, cool. I just thought I had it in the bag, with my peer. Everything was going good. I remember walking through the khaki that we're in, and you sort of have to walk and you report to this guy. You left face and you report, and it's him and a chief. And they go, roster 08, not selected. And he looks over his chief and they go, we just don't want to take the risk. And I stared at him and I was like, say that, like, they baffled, like, no idea what they just said. And so I walk out and there's a psych doc there and she's like, da-da-da. I'm just like, gone. Like,
what do they mean by the risk?
That night when I'm like just crying my eyes out, I call my wife and I'm like, hey babe, like, I didn't get selected. And she's just like, well, God has a reason for everything, like, she's always like the rock. She's always there, like, and if there was anything she could have said, like, that was it. And so I sort of just like paused and I was like, dang, like, I made it, which is really cool. Like, I was one of the oldest guys there. I got, like, for everything I was able to do, like, that was my win. Not getting selected obviously sucked, but it allowed me to where I'm at today. Like, I can't complain. I knew I was coming back to an amazing family and all that. But the next day when I'm talking to the cadre for feedback, I walk up, to a cadre there and I'm like, hey guys, like, what's up? And they're like, hey man, dude, like, like, they don't know what to say. And the biggest thing from what I heard is the return of investment. Since I only had 4 years till I could retire. Yeah. The pipeline alone for TAC PO is like 2 years. So they were nervous or understanding there's a risk where if they would have selected me, I could bounce like right at 20, and then there goes all their return, right?
Yep.
And so I was sort of like,
Because
and
most of the
my
people
group,
were lieutenants with you. Most of the
oh,
lieutenants or
they're
NCOs.
straight out of the academy or NCOs that are cross training from TACP or CCT.
Yeah,
So they still had 10 plus years to give or 20.
sure.
So the guys they selected, and that's the thing, there's no quota for their selection. They don't need to select anybody if they don't have to. And all of that was just like, I left there like, dang. And I cried like the whole, and I drove there from Abilene to San Antonio. So I cried like the 4 hours back to Abilene. I'm like, how am I going to tell my commander this, my group commander, all the B-1 guys that I was saying, like, I was going to like leave the community, right? Like, how are they going to take it?
Yep.
I'm just in this mindset
Are
of
they
just
going to
like,
welcome me
dude, these
back?
guys, yeah, exactly. Like, you know how it is in some of those very close knit communities. When you say you want to leave, they're going to be like, dude, get out of here. We don't want you anymore. You know, like,
Yeah.
you don't want to be part of us. But luckily, my commander at the time, an amazing guy, very good mentor of mine, was just like, hey, here's what we got next. You can either do this or this. And I was like, well, let me go back to the B-1. Let me go back and fly because I haven't been flying as much. I'm ready. I was like rebirthed into getting back into the B-1. So that's what I did. I took all that learning, all that leadership, all that failure, and just flipped the script on becoming the best B-1 instructor, 9th Bomb Squadron guy I can be to the guys I'm around now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I say, my most recent hardship. There were plenty more down the road,
Sure.
but that's probably the most recency one that, and it was only hard because I went in with all my eggs in one basket. You know, like there's a
Yeah.
lot of sayings, you know, like don't have a plan B, burn the boats. You know, I burned all my boats, you know, like
Sure.
I left there picking up the pieces like shit. Now I got to swim back home, you know, like I ain't got nothing left.
Yep.
And the reason I did that, like I remember my dad asking me before I went down there, he's like, hey, what if you don't fail? And I was like, I don't have a plan, you know, like this is it, Dad. He's like, I'm going all in on it. And the reason is, and I tell a lot of people this, is because if you have a doubt in your mind, you won't give your best effort. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I knew there was another fallback, there may have been times during that week where I would have relaxed or I would have pulled back because I knew this wasn't my only option. So I was crushing myself at every workout, trying my best at all like this other stuff we were doing, only because I had to give it all.
Yeah. Thanks for just going right into it and diving so much because, you're already getting into like that attitude that I think what I look up to and people, and, some people think like the biggest hardships are the ones that came early in their life that they always look back on, or the one that's kind of the most recent, right? The hardship
Yeah.
that you're going through right now. And I think that if you keep pushing those, whatever you want to say, goalposts out there, and you keep
Yeah.
setting new goals, and you keep pushing yourself to the next limit, whatever that limit might be. If you're not kind of having these consistent small failures or large failures, you're not pushing the envelope. If you haven't had like a hardship in a few years, our sergeant major just went to jungle school, and he said the reason he went is he watched some of our NCOs who went through a big physical assessment, best OC in the Army, and they were so fired up because they said, it's been years since I did something like that, where I stuck my neck out there and competed.
Yeah.
And he said it made him feel so good, like going through jungle school where he's surrounded by these 20-year-olds, right? And he's like, I'm just out here getting dirty, getting wet, giving it everything. And it feels so good to be back out there, giving yourself a challenge where you might not make it.
That's how it was for me. I was telling those kids there, I was like, dude, I haven't been through something like this since Hell Week at SERE, which was 20 years ago. So I haven't been smoked. I haven't been thrown in a rock pit. I haven't been woken up at 2 a.m., with flashlights in my face, all that crazy stuff. And I was loving it, man. At the same time, I was like, shoot, dude, like this is it, And I told them, I was like, I put myself in this situation. Some of those guys, they had it either they chose it, maybe it's the only job option they had.
Mm-hmm.
I volunteered, out of where I'm at to do this. And
you were putting at risk something that a lot of people would kill for, to get on a B-1 and to be out there. Like,
for
these
sure,
people want to be a part. They worked everything to get to that, and you're willing to risk it and to go put yourself out there. Yeah.
And then to just so I don't forget on what do I want people to think when they hear me or maybe have an interaction with me is, I want them to be what you said, like fired up, motivated. So like when they hear like, oh, Manny's, I'm going to go work out with Manny, right? Like, or I'm going to go see Manny, or he's coming to this base, you know, or like I want him to be excited, not scared, not nervous of maybe what they see online, or heck, even like a rank, you know, which some people are still intimidated by. I want them
Yeah,
to be
yeah, for
fired
sure.
up. Like they go, oh shoot, I'm going to Manny's house today. Like I have a guy coming over this afternoon that I just saw through the Lowe's parking lot that said, dude, are you Manny Mustache on TikTok, dude? Like, hey man, like I graduated here at HSU. Can I come over and work out one day? I was like, yeah, dude, like come over this weekend, man. Like
Oh, that's
that's what I want
awesome.
people to feel like, you know, they feel like they can just talk to me.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I and I think you share so much on social media. So we break that bridge of the the rank, you know, like we are
Yeah.
all humans. And I want people to know that just like they can just come up to me and just say what's up or say hi, or you know, I get it all the time down the
Hmm.
gym and they're like, I see your videos, you know, and I tell them every message I get, every person that comes up to me, I say thank you. You know, like I know it's not easy to just walk up to somebody randomly on social media that you see, and even if I'm in uniform or not, and say like I watch your videos, or you got me to work out, or I'm starting to run.
Yeah.
So that's it right there.
Yeah, I feel like I can empathize with everything you just said, because my favorite comment is when someone says you're the same person in real life as you sound,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, you're the same person that I see in the photo,
Yeah.
and it's not like I know you, but you were never out there on the road putting in those miles. I never see you on the road. Like, when are you putting these miles in?
Yeah.
You know, and instead it's like, you know, it becomes like William Wallace. It's like he's out there running 10 miles a day at a 6 minute pace. And I'm like, yeah, more like 3 miles a day at a 10 minute pace. I promise you, you know? And it's like, but I always see you out there and I'm like, I'm walking some of those times. Don't let traffic light me and find out that every once in a while I do walk. Not on Trimble, but I do walk, you know, while we're out there sometimes. It's
uh,
part of it, you know. Man, what a good start to it. What direction do you want to go next? Do you want to kind of go a little bit more into the beginning and, like, you know, making the
yeah.
transition, and why you joined in the first place? And then what was that kind of tipping point where you said, I'm gonna go maybe be an officer?
Yeah. So I think the beginning will be good. And then how early in your Air Force leadership experience? I think that's a good one too. Those are some good topics there. So I can
Yeah.
transition into that one.
Yeah,
So
please.
the reason Manny joined the military is in high school, just like most senior classes, they usually have a recruiter come and give like a ASVAB and talk about the military. And that's what happened to me. My senior year, I broke my thumb playing. Well, I broke my thumb bowling, but it kept me from going on to college to play baseball. Because I think that was the only sport I really had going for me in high school was baseball. I was pretty quick. I was a good outfielder, you know, like a leadoff batter. And that's what I was looking at. I grew up in a small town. There weren't a lot of colleges around. I didn't want to stay local. And so once I broke my thumb, I was sort of like, ooh, I need to find something else to do. And then right after that, this recruiter comes to our town and he's talking about the military. And I knew my dad was in, my uncle was in, my grandpa was in, and it was an army recruiter at the time. And so I just tell my dad, like, hey, I'm going to go into the army. And with
Mm-hmm.
his wisdom, which was pretty simple, was just like, hey, I was in the Air Force. So why don't you go in the Air Force? I was like, oh, okay, cool. Why don't I do that? Like, I didn't know any better. And so I take the ASVAB, I get a pretty basic score. And I think it's like open general or open mechanic. And I
Yeah.
go, hey, dad, here's what I got. He's like, oh, you don't want that. Let's go find you a guaranteed job so you know what you have. And we go back to the recruiter, and there's only like 3 guaranteed jobs you can get at the time. Is PJ, SERE, and there might have been one other one, but you have to take a test to get those jobs. So pararescue SERE, I go, cool, that sounds good. What do I got to do? And he's like, you got to do this 200-meter swim this time, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, not a good swimmer. Like, what's next? Like, what's the one under that? And he goes,
Mm-hmm.
well, SERE, you have a swim test, but there's no time limit. You got to do a 4-mile ruck. You got to do this and this. And I was like, oh, I could do that. So I do that. And at that time, my recruiter didn't fabricate what SERE is. A lot of people are told when they become a survival instructor that they're going to be like tasked to a PJ unit or doing all this cool door kicker stuff. When in reality, our job is to teach survival to air crew, and that's what we do. And so my guy was like, hey, you do a lot of woodsy stuff. You're out camping. You're with air crew. And obviously I grew up in Northern California. I went hunting. I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. So I passed the test. I enlist. I have to wait like a year because it's a guaranteed job.
What year was
But
this?
So I graduated high school 2005, and then in 2006 is when I enlisted.
Okay. All right.
So around October of 2006 is when I get a call. My recruiter's like, hey, this guy that was supposed to go SERE broke his leg. We have a slot for you March of 2006 to go to basic. And I was like, all right, let's go. Go down to Lackland, do the thing. You know, the recruiters are telling you, and these are some of the fun things I remember from basic. The recruiters are telling you, don't volunteer for anything, right? Don't say yes. Be like the gray man. If they ask you if you like music, say no, or you're going to be in the band. All that stuff in the Air Force Basic where they get you to volunteer for these things. And I'm like, cool, got it. I'm already a gray man. I'm small. I'm this little white kid, right? I don't stand out. First thing I do when I get out there, I stand on this little dot in a line. There's like 4 dots right when you get off the bus, and I stand on one of them. And everybody lines up behind me. Another guy goes to another dot. And my TA, obviously they're all yelling at you. My TA is like, if you're on a dot, you're an element leader. And I'm like, shoot, I did the exact thing they told me not to do. Put myself in a spot where you're like center of attention. So I was the element leader of element 1 from day 1. And I remember going into basic dorm, there's like the flight chiefs in the middle, and you have 2 halls going down the side of the dorm. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your flight chiefs right there. I remember on my bunk the first morning, looking over, and he comes storming in. Obviously, they're cussing and swearing, and he looks at me, and I look at him because I'm like just waking up, and he's just like, "Get him up," blah blah blah, like swearing and all this. And so I didn't swear growing up in high school. My dad just taught us like not to swear. We weren't really around it a lot, and so I remember the first time I dropped an F-bomb. There was a question mark at the end of it. I literally was like, hey guys, get the fuck up. Like, is that how you, I looked, I was like, is that how you say it? Like, is that how you use that word?
Is that the right
that's like just, is that the right enunciation I use to get these guys going?
Is it an adjective or a noun? Like, what are we doing here? It's all of the above.
So there's a funny story, and that's basic training. I had a blast. Then for SERE, you stay at Lackland Air Force Base right after, because we have our in-dock training, which is sort of like a hell week right after basic. So you drive across the street, they drop you off, you get PT'd, and sort of like a mini tech school. It was about 2 weeks long. I make it through that. Then I go up to Fairchild. Fairchild is the home of all SERE specialists in the Air Force, where our tech school is, our home training. This 2006 still. And I get up there, I drive my little Nissan Frontier from California straight up the coast through Oregon to Washington, pull up there like a Sunday night, check in Monday morning. I don't even have a room. I'm bunking with another SERE buddy that was in my previous class. We have to go through SV80, the survival school for the pilots prior to SERE. So I remember like it was quick when I got there. We in processed, we went to SV80, which is a couple weeks, which is like the version we're going to teach as a survival instructor. You graduate that, then you start tech school. So there were guys there that were at Fairchild for 6 months when in what we call a pre-team, preparing for tech school. So they'd been there practicing how to make a fire, practicing how to do shelter, doing PT every morning. I get there with the guys in my group. We go through SV80, we get our dorms, we get our gear, and like the next week we're starting tech school. And we're just like, what is going on? No idea. So SERE tech school is about 6 months long. You have different phases of training. You have familiarization, which is a FAM phase, where you learn how to sew and improvise, and you go through some sleep deprivation. They try to get a lot of people to quit there. Then you go through all the biomes. It's one of the highest attrition quitting jobs in the military. It's pretty dang intense, but you go through every phase of biome. You learn how to live in the Arctic, live in the open ocean, live in the tropics, live in the desert, live in the mountains, urban evasion.
Is that? Biome?
6 months. So you go, so there's different biomes throughout the 6 months.
Oh, wow.
So like you do an academic phase of open ocean, and then you go to the open ocean in the Tillamook Bay, and we get ferried out there in a boat. You get put in a 20-man life raft. You get put in a 1-man life raft. You live on the coastline for a couple of days. You have tasks you have to do, like build a fire, take care of your gear, build a shelter, and you're graded on everything. And then you go back to Fairchild. You get taught how to go to desert training. You get taught all about desert. Then we go out to Yakima, which is like the middle of Washington, where it's like hot. You do desert training. You get dehydrated. You have to improvise gear to keep you dry. You eat snakes. You do all the desert stuff. And you do all those biomes throughout that 6 months. And it's just, you're graded on everything. They check your axe, make sure it's sharp. They check your gear, make sure there's no cuts. you have teaching lessons you have to do every phase. So you're graded on how did you instruct your class how to build a shelter? How did you instruct your class as an element leader? You go through navigation, you go through urban evasion. And so the way I got through that early in my career is one, I I sort of didn't know what to expect, and that's what kept me going. Sometimes if you know what to expect,
Yeah.
you're nervous. I think you've talked about it on some of your shows too with training. Well, I didn't know what to expect from SERE. I was literally living day by day. I was living breakfast, lunch to dinner every day. I was like, dude, just make it to breakfast after PT. Okay, PT's done. You're going to go back and shower. You're going to go through this. Now go get to lunch.
Yeah.
You know when lunch is every day. Cool. Okay, now you know there's about 3 or 4 hours after lunch of academics, and then you're going to go eat dinner. Cool. Then you're going to have some tasks to do for the night, for the next day. Just do that each day. In the woods, it was the same thing. We all had to wake up at a certain time. We had our care and use we had to do. We had to get graded by our instructor. We knew what tasks we were doing. Just literally take it step by step. And that's what I did. I was one of the youngest on my team. I was the smallest on my team. That's where I think the grit really stood out to me later in my career. Is I love that leadership trait. So not knowing what to expect was a good one. And then the grit, just keep going the next day. And I was just excited, man. I was a young kid, my class called me the bubble kid because I knew nothing about life. Like Spokane, when I moved there, was the biggest town I've ever lived in. I only grew up listening to country music. So my roommate was a hardcore rocker. So he would quiz me on rock music. Like, who's this? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, this is Metallica, 19, whatever. You don't know the song? I'm like, bro, dude, I don't know anything outside of my small town of Gridley.
You were you were like a sponge, just ready to absorb everything that they do. Hey, I want to ask you, when you got there, right, and you start going through it, or whether it was basic, it's 2006. What was the overall feeling? Like, was the feeling, oh shit, I'm going to war, or yes, like we are going through this training, and then everybody here, as soon as you get done, off you go. You're either going to support the war or GWAT, or you're heading off. Like, did you have this big sense of purpose, in 2006? And I'm leading you towards, or us towards, is it different today than it was in 26? And for me, that was 96, back there.
I didn't see any big picture war stuff probably until I became a B-1 guy.
Really?
The Air Force is the Air Force is a business in my perspective. It is very task oriented. That's probably the difference I see when I think of leadership and personal development between other branches. The Air Force is very task oriented. Like, we are focused on a job, completing tasks, not as much as the teamwork and the big picture. As an airman, you're focused on these small details to support your flight, your squadron. But man, I didn't even know of a war. I didn't know what was going on outside of Fairchild. I was just teaching aircrew, and some of those aircrew were probably maybe going to war. I didn't know. Obviously, I had aircrew come through all the time as a survival instructor, but I never asked them, hey, now that I think about it, they were going through SVAD probably to get ready to go to war. But I had no idea. I was just living in my Fairchild bubble as a survival instructor, just doing my day by day, 1 week of academic teaching for SVAD as an instructor, 1 week in the woods. We have 2 days of R&R. You have a week to clean all your gear. And then I did that for 4 years. That was enlisted. That was my job.
Yeah.
Just teaching aircrew. Boom, 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 boom. And then that's what the transition to leading into becoming an officer. I remember.
Would the Air Force have kept you doing that for your whole career? Would you have just continued to teach SERE your whole career? There was no hey, after about 4 years, you're going to need to move out and go do something different.
Yeah. So at Fairchild, usually you're teaching survival for about 4 years, and then you can move either to RT, or you can move to parachute, or you can go to a base level slot, which is where you're in an OSS attached to a flying squadron teaching SERE there. Very rarely do SERE guys deploy. And if we do, we're in a PRC, working in a KOC, working around everybody else. If there's any downed aircrew, or working with EPAs and ISO preps. But not a lot of SERE guys deploy. We are very much a home station, refresher course in aircrew when they're at a local base. So
okay, all right. So get back into now you're thinking about this tipping point. I'm considering I want to I want more leadership, or I want to be an officer. What was going through your head that said that's the kind of the direction I want to go.
About 2 years in, I was a 4-year contractee. So that was one of the tipping points, is looking at what's next. I had yet to go to college, right? So there was that. My younger brother at the time was at college playing football. So I still had this aspiration to go do something athletic, right? And do all the college stuff. All these things are like in the back of my mind of what could I do with my future? Well, I remember sitting in my office one day. I don't know if you guys ever had kitty cannon on Excel back then when you had those documents floating around. Well, we had these documents with like these random games on them. And one of them was like kitty cannon and these other games they made on Excel back then, which was crazy. So I'm just like wasting away, just like, and I look across and my flight chief, he's a staff sergeant, and he's just like on his computer, just like, and I'm like, hey, sir, is that like where I'm going to go? Like, I'm going to transition to there in my career. Is that like what career progression is like as a SERE guy? I don't know. And he's like, yeah, you'll work in the khaki, you'll work in the field flights. Then you'll come up to a flight chief, you'll manage a field flight. And then you'll move up to like whatever. But he was mentioning you get away from the SERE. Like, you're not teaching as much, right? I'm not doing the hands-on stuff. You're supervising, you're managing, you're leading. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that. I'm 20 years old, like I'm still young. I still want to do all this stuff. I wasn't ready to, I say, become a leader or an adult, really. Probably just an adult overall. And that fall, I met my wife. We got married like 2 months later, the normal enlisted path. We met, she's getting ready to deploy. Obviously, we're still together, so it all worked out. We loved each other, but it's just like a funny story we tell people. Well, she's getting ready to deploy. I was getting ready to go to the academy and teach survival, because we send SERE guys down there to teach their survival training during the summer. So I go down to USAFA, and I'm working with cadets that are becoming officers. And I'm like, oh, what is this? What are you guys? Like, oh, this is a school to become an officer. Most cadets at the time were like, don't come this way if you don't have to. Go do like ROTC or something like that to become an officer. And I'm like, okay, that's like most cadets when you meet them. They're like, don't do this, go do something else. Because, it's 4 years of being in the military, but you're not getting paid, or,
Sure, right.
So now I'm like, how else can I become an officer? So I talked to my wife. We started brainstorming. Well, she went to college at Washington State and did ROTC for a little bit before she had to become a reservist. And she throws out ROTC. And I'm like, what's that? Oh, it's a program. You go to college, you become an officer. And okay. So now I'm looking what's out there. And then I hear of OTS. Obviously, for the enlisted side, if you have a degree, you submit your package. So I knew I had to make a choice. Do I stay in, get my degree while I'm enlisted, apply for OTS, or separate? Well, at that time, obviously, I say technology wasn't that big. All I heard about OTS was it's hard. People lose your packages. What if it's not submitted on time? And all I heard was not a lot of control on my end. And that made me nervous. I was like, ooh, like I want to control how my destiny goes. But I heard about ROTC. It's a class. It's in school. You go there. You basically graduate, do your job, and you commission. Oh, okay. What else could I do? I could go to college. I could try to play football. I could do all these other bucket list things I wanted to do. So my wife and I just started looking around for schools. We went to Sacramento, back hometown, to see if I wanted to go down there. We visited. We looked at some schools in Washington because she was looking to be a state cop at the time, so we stayed local. So I just Googled like Washington State University. Their program was like 2-8 that year for football. So I was like, oh, cool. If I want to walk on somewhere, this team's not that good, so I may have a chance. It's D1. Like who has the chance to play D1 football? At my high school, nobody had ever played D1 football or any sport, D1 ever. And I was like, man, that'd be pretty cool. My brother was playing at a D3. So he was playing there, Linfield, Portland, Oregon area. And so I was like, okay, I still have a couple years to get in better shape. I'm a little bit older. So I was like, let's just do that. And my philosophy I teach as well is I was putting my ducks in a row. I was making sure all my ducks were lined up when I went to college. Like everybody always asked me, like, dude, what was college like? I was like, busiest time of my life, busiest 4 years ever. My wife and I never saw each other because I was doing football, ROTC, school. She was a full-time loss and prevention, like a safety person at a Shopko, working nights. I would wake up at like 4, go to football workouts, go to school, go to practice, go to film, do ROTC, do homework, come home and go to bed. She would then be going to work, and then I would wake up, she'd come home, and we laugh about that time, all that, because it was just busy. But I tell people that was the most productive time in my life because I had no time to procrastinate. My worst grades in my years of college were the years I wasn't busy. This is the
Yeah.
year I wasn't
Yeah.
playing football and I wasn't on a schedule. And so my ROTC commander was really cool at the time. He was fine with me playing football. My football coaches were also fine with me doing ROTC. If I had to do my labs on Thursday, I was just a walk on, right? I wasn't like a scholarship player. I wasn't no star guy that they were going to miss. So I walked onto the program. I made it. They put me at running back. I'd never played running back in my life. I was like, what do I do? But they saw my work ethic as an older guy being in the military. They saw I could just keep my head down and just work. And I loved it. Being a scout running back was amazing. But I was also in the reserves. So my wife was a reservist. She got me a job as a SERE reservist at McCord. So some weekends during college, we would go to McCord, do our one weekend a month, come back to school that Sunday night, go to school Monday. My summers are pretty busy with field training for ROTC or going back as a combatives instructor or football summer workouts and fall workouts or doing my 2 weeks for reserves. So that was so 2006, 2010, all enlisted survival instructor teaching aircrew how to live in the woods, which was phenomenal. 10 to 14, college, football, reservists, trying to survive, living paycheck to paycheck. And then I graduate, commissioned in 2014 as a CISO. And that's like the next journey down there.
So you do you go through all that training. Now you're doing ROTC. You're out there, and like, how many years did you have to do ROTC? You had to do a full 4 years?
So I did the 4 years because I used my GI Bill for all the school, no credits to transfer, and I wanted to experience college in its, I guess, fullest potential, right? I didn't want to handcuff myself with shortchanging any year, so I just started school as a freshman, 23 years old, graduated as a 27-year-old. So
Did you have any kids yet?
yeah. No, we didn't. So it was fun. Like, we had a blast. We partied, we had fun, met some great people. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go out as an officer now. You've been married for almost 5 years, four or 5 years. And how did it go to figure out like where you're going to go, what you're going to do as an officer?
She still is very supportive and flexible to anything I wanted to do. So I got my CISO slot in ROTC, which is Combat Systems Operator. Obviously in ROTC, you have non-rated jobs and rated jobs you can apply for. I applied for a rated job, which is either pilot, CISO, RPA, or ABM. You put in your AFOQT and your TBAS, and you get selected based off your overall score. And so I got Combat Systems Operator, which is you go to Florida, Pensacola for a year to do training, and then you have a drop night to get your aircraft. So we worked with my commander at the time to let him know, like, hey, after college, because there were a lot of people who would have to wait after they graduated what we call casual status to start their training. Well, we had like no source of income. Our apartments, like, we didn't want to go back with our parents. And so I just told my commander, and this leads into like transparency, right? A leadership trait is very important. So I just told my commander, I was like, hey, sir, can you get us to start training like right after college? Because we don't know what we're doing with our lives right now. He was like, no, sure, let me go make some calls. And so he called, and I had a training slot to start like that next month. So we just hitched up our 2 dogs, our U-Haul, and the vehicle, and we drove from Washington all the way to Florida. 5-day extravaganza across the United States.
Oh my goodness.
And then
so you could start
getting paid. The reason we loved that's us. You can start getting paid, live our life, and start my career. So then we get to Pensacola. Pensacola is where they have the Air Force CISO training school at, which is cool because you're on a Navy base. You're like the stepchild of this Navy base because there's other Navy jobs there. But I'm in Florida. Like, who gets to complain about a tech school on the beaches of the Gulf, man? Like, it was amazing. So we get down there, we start our training. I'm having a good time, loving Florida. Connor, our first kid, is born down there right before we graduate. So it was really cool. That time, I'm trying to think if anything crazy happened then. For me, it was the same thing as SERE. I didn't know what to expect in this school. Like, so I don't know a lot about aviation. I still don't. Like, besides being a B-1 Wizzo, like, I know that. But there are a lot of people who sign up to be flyers and aviators that have a passion for flying, right? Like, they may know this is this Cessna or this is this whatever. Here's how a plane flies. Nothing. I was a survival instructor, right? Like, I knew how to start a fire, build a shelter, and play college football.
Yeah.
I wasn't like all these other cadets that had like STEM degrees or civil engineer stuff. I was just like a bro, just getting through ROTC. So we get down to Pensacola. Same thing down there. They teach everything from ground zero. You go to Pueblo, Colorado, which is like a under pilot training, and they teach you the basics of how a plane flies: drag, lift, force, and gravity, something like that. Those 4 things all go into play. And they literally draw a picture like, this is drag, this is force, this is gravity, this is lift. And I'm like, oh, science, cool. So I'm just taking it in, where I'm learning the training. I bring a different side to my Pensacola class, right? That like guy who's down there that isn't super smart, but I'm really good with relationships. I always love exercise, so I bring the team together, I'm the SERE of my class, senior ranking officer, because I was prior enlisted. So I get put in charge of my class of other officers. And it's just a good group of people, man. Like, they're all young lieutenants that are just motivated to start their military career, and we're all in Florida. So we're going to parties, we're going to concerts, we're going to the beach, having a good time. Getting, this is the military. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Not all of us completely understand like the difference between like going to becoming a pilot versus, weapon system officer. Tell me a little bit about like the biggest difference between those two things.
Yeah. So UPT, under pilot training, and we'll call it CISO school, are similar in training academics, right? The only difference is pilots are going to become a pilot. So they are being trained how to fly a plane in their pilot training. CISOs are being taught everything else that's not flying. So navigating, defending the jet, WISO stuff. So weapon system operator, navigators, and then also the electronic warfare side of other navigation crew members on planes. So when you're at CISO school, unlike pilots where you're putting in a dream sheet to fly multiple planes, right? Because that's what pilot training and CISO training both have in common. You put in a dream sheet of the aircraft you want, and you get racked and stacked, and you have a drop night. Well, pilots, they have like a bomber and fighter path, or a heavies and fighter path, and then they get spread from there, and they get their aircraft. Well, CISO school is sort of the same, except you're either going down a aircraft-specific navigator or aircraft-specific weapon system operator or electronic warfare officer, because some aircrafts have difference, right? So the F-15 has a WISO in the back seat. The RC-135 has EWOs, electronic warfare officers, that are doing like beeps and squeaks and listening to bad guys. Some C-130s have navigators on them, so that's another aspect. The B-1s, we have both a weapon system operator that does navigation, defending the jet, and dropping bombs. So that's why the B-1 is pretty cool. B-52 has navigators and offensive system operators, so 2 forms there. So when you're at CISO school, you're learning what platform and sort of job do I want to put on my dream sheet as you go through the school, because you're taught it all. You're taught every system of CISO, how to do the beeps and squeaks, how to navigate. So like point-to-point navigation on a GPS, timing when you're flying, how fast you're going. Same as the weapon system stuff, like, hey, how do I do a time on target, timing, etc. So towards the end, you get racked and stacked, and you put your dream sheets of aircraft, and you have a drop night, and you get your selected aircraft. Then you have to go to that airframe tech school, or FTU, formal training unit, and start all over again as a student, but now you're in a training for that aircraft. So that's where I go after Pensacola. We have our drop night. B-1 is like really far down on my list because I knew nothing about it. I just didn't know what it was. So, but my flight commander understood. I was a senior ranking officer in the class. I wasn't the most academically. I think I was like top 3rd. So those guys got F-15s because that's how the rack and stack goes. The next best available aircraft is a B-1. So I was pretty high in my class. I get B-1s. I remember the B-1 coming up on the screen because they do the whole thing where you're like facing the screen and they do a video and a B-1 flies by. And I'm like, what's that? This is like B-1. And I'm like, cool. What do I do next? And like this guy comes up to me, gives me a patch, and it says like Abilene, Texas. And I'm like, oh, we're going to Texas, babe. Never been to Texas, like we're excited. And so, yeah, then we move with our baby. We drive from Florida to Texas, which was the most difficult drive in our life with 2 dogs and a baby now. Then we start all over again. I start training all over again as a new student in the B-1. This is about a year later. So we learned all the academics of the B-1, academic training, all the systems, all the mechanics, all the emergencies, all the weapons, all the bombs, all the navigations, all the systems, everything about the B-1. Then you go into the flight line phase where you're in the B-1 now, flying and doing all the button hits in the B-1. How do I turn on the B-1? How do I set my seat? How do I build a target? How do I navigate? How do I talk on the radio? You do that, and then you graduate. Then you get shredded to your ops squadron. So The B-1 FTU is about another year. Then you go to your operations squadron. So there's 3 operations squadrons in the B-1. Dallas Air Force Base has the 9th Bomb Squadron. Ellsworth had 2, the 34th and the 37th. Well, at that time with the baby, I didn't want to move again. We were like, dude, boss, can we stay in Abilene? Like, let us relax for a little bit. And so he's like, cool, got you. You guys will go to the 9th. Sweet. So we know that. We graduate. I drive down the road to the 9th Bomb Squadron. Now I start all over again. Now I'm a MQT guy. I need to get mission qualified trained as a B-1 aviator. So I graduated tech school, or the FTU. I go to the 9th Bomb Squadron. All these combat killer aviators are there. This is where I learn about war. Like, this is where I learn what's going on in the world, because
for the
we
first
are in
time.
the oldest bombs. Yes, we are in the oldest bomb squadron ever, the 9th Bomb Squadron. A lot of history. It's been at war in GWAT doing close air support for 20 years, raining hate on everybody out there, just crushing it, right? The best bomber out there. So that's where I learn about it. I get there. I'm this young guy. I'm prior enlisted. I think I'm pretty squared away. I walk into the squadron, and these captains and majors are just like, like war heroes, like they're like my idols, like they're what I want to be next. I'm the new B-1 guy. I just graduated FTU. I don't know much about combat training, but now they're there to teach me. I have to go through mission qualification training to become a certified aviator and get my call sign. That's the next step. So for about 6 months, I'm learning more tactically what the B-1 does. How does the B-1 employ tactics against this enemy? How do we fight these enemies? So now I'm learning how to go to war, because that's where I'm going next after I go through mission qualification training. MQT leads you up to become a CMR crew member to go to war. You get your call sign, you have your naming night, and then you're blessed brethren to go deploy. So that's what I'm doing next. I'm getting to know my squadron. I'm meeting some of the best people I've ever met in my life. It's a small fraternity, right? So I'm molding with it, and I'm loving it. Like, I remember, I feel bad at the time because I wasn't around a lot for my family, because my wife knew I had to give everything to be the best B-1 aviator. And that was a lot of flights, a lot of in the vault studying. Those 3 years, I was not home a lot. And that's just, we knew. We talked a lot about this throughout every step we were going to take, like what I needed to do to get to the next step. And we knew when I went to the 9th, I had to be the best B-1 aviator there for my squadron. So I was flying a lot of extra lines. I was taking the TDYs. I was going on the courses, going on the training events, just to be part of the bats. And so that led me to finishing mission qualification training, getting my call sign, earning that name of SNARE, going on my first deployment to the deed, and, first time dropping a combat bomb and going to war. And that war actually was the last time the B-1 was in CENTCOM. So in 2019, we left the deed as the last B-1 squadron to ever be deployed there for 6 months. So we shut down the deed, we shut down the MERV at the time, where that area is that we were dropping bombs. And that was sort of what all of that, I say, 10 years led up to, from enlisting to 2017, 18, when I deployed for the first time. Combat wise, I did a deployment to Guam, but if I'm speaking combat wise, fighting war, 2018 and 19 were my 6 months in the deed, doing the missions with my hard crew, finally seeing, I guess, outside of the Air Force.
Yeah. What do you mean by the deed?
So we get stationed at Doha, Qatar, Al Udeid.
Okay.
And that's where we fly our missions from. So we'd fly our missions either to Afghanistan or to Iraq, Syria, leaving for our missions. So then we go to Syria over there and do our bombing missions, or we go to Afghanistan to do Overwatch for any of the Army guys that are doing all their missions, and all over Afghanistan, just flying armed Overwatch is what we did all through Afghanistan. So I remember just orbiting over guys on the ground, clearing villages, and we're just Overwatch, watching them clear these villages in the middle of the night, and just letting them know, like, dude, nobody's there, you're good, man. And I remember looking on my pod, watching these guys just go into buildings, and then we talk to them, like, cool, yep, we're going to go put our sensors up in front of you guys a little bit, make sure there's nothing there. Sweet. Or we'd be talking to a JTAC, and he'd be like, hey, man, go check out this city for a little bit. Let me know what you see. Cool. Nothing. It's pretty quiet. Hey, I need a show of force over here. We go do our show of forces. That was all on the Afghanistan side. We rarely dropped in Afghanistan because it was a lot harder out there to drop and deploy. we just needed a lot more approval. So we did a lot of armed overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
In Iraq, when we were fighting over there, we knew those missions were dropping. So we were in the
Yeah.
MERV. You'd check in with your JTAC as soon as you got in the country, and he'd have 9 lines ready for you. You'd be just sitting there filling out these 9 lines. Boom, boom,
What do you
boom,
mean by the
checking
MERV?
in. I think that there's that river that we would always fly up and down, and I can't remember this is the location of where we were. I think that was the river right there. Yeah.
Okay.
And so at that time, they were just clearing out all those villages of any ISIS that were left in there. And so that was our task. We were tasked to we were literally started from the bottom, and we're just working our way up, destroying buildings, clearing out that area, make sure nobody was left.
Got it. Yeah. It's crazy. Like, I'm on my 32nd year in the Army, right? And like, still, I'm like, those terms are like very common for you, not so common for me. Like we didn't call them those same things, you know. Or when someone's like, "Oh, the valley," and you're like, "Well, which valley?" You know, like which one are you talking about? You talking about the Prakoti Valley, or what are we talking about here? Yeah. You've said the phrase "starting all over again" about 10 times, right?
Yeah.
And so for people that, what are those things that every time you said I had to start all over again, right? So you walk in a new unit, whatever it might be, a new school, a new class, a deployment, and you're like, I'm starting all over again. What are the first things that go through your mind when you say, I'm starting all over again? Even at this day and age where you're at right now, I'm starting over again. What do I got to do?
I think the reason I use that so much is it helps me understand and not have so much expectations for if I fail, because I know I'm going to mess up. I know I'm not going to know. I don't know everything, so I'm starting over. It allows me to clearly express where I'm at and be a sponge and learn everywhere I go. Like, in none of those situations was I the expert. When I started B-1 school, I didn't know anything about the B-1, so I couldn't go in and sort of chaff maybe or ignore what some of my instructors were saying because I thought I knew more. I was taking it all in. I was a fresh student every time I started over. And that allowed me to listen more and take and just soak it in. And it almost allowed me, like where it says check your ego at the door, that's what I was doing every time. I was forgetting survival school instructor Manny, who has all this military experience as a B-1 FTU guy, like that has nothing to do with the B-1. So when I'd walk into these classrooms, I would just be like, hey, I'm here to learn, guys. Like, teach me, like, what can I learn today? Same as a deployment, I was relying heavily on my air crew who had deployed before, my hard crew I was with. I was with a great instructor pilot. Mr. was his call sign, and he deployed before. So I was the young guy on the crew as the Wizzo. And I was like, hey, sir, like, or Mr., I'm new. Like, I'm starting over again. Like, teach me, and it allows me just to open up a little more and put everything to the side and focus on what is right in front of me.
Yeah. When I put a bunch of notes here about the way you described, like getting to that unit and I have to be the best, and I got to get those flight hours. And, you were investing, there was not a lot of balance in your life at that point. Like, you were putting tons into being the best, weapon system operator that you could be. There's not a lot of balance. Like, that's not the time to say I'm working on work-life balance, right? So you can become a pro and become, what you need to be in your area. And then you said starting all over, like, I think that starting all over, whether it's at the, the technical level or at the leadership level, I love playing in the new guy card. Right? I don't know anything about this unit. Like, it's okay to not know anything. And I think that, especially with like leadership, right? They're like, oh, as soon as you take command, you're expected to know everything. As soon as you become the first sergeant, like, everybody expects that you have the answer to everything and every question that they're going to go. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can absolutely say, I know I'm the most senior person here. Maybe the most senior person here should should ask the most questions, right? They often say that
Mhm.
the higher you are, the more senior you are, the more authority you have, but the less information you have. And then all the way
Yeah.
down to the people on the line, they have all the information. They know what's going on,
Mhm.
but they have none of the authority. And it's how do you bring those two things together, right? The first 90
Yep.
days is a good book to cut that describes, like, for leaders, like what should I do in the first 90 days of
Mm.
command? But in your case, it's the other phrase is see everyone and see everything. Like I need to learn everything I
Yep.
can from a leadership perspective or from a teammate perspective, right? From
Mhm.
what's going on in this unit. I love how you've applied that to the, starting over at every one of the levels. Where are you at, like, right now in life? Like, what are you starting over right now? Like, what's the big thing right now for you?
I think right now is so to break down some of the Air Force flying career progression, which is very complicated. Most aviators will be in a combat squadron for about 3 to 5 years, learning their craft in the jet. So, when you think of that on a leadership perspective, you're not leading a lot. And if you are, you're only leading your crew. So, as a B-1 aviator, you're learning to lead 3 other B-1 guys in a plane that are probably just as experienced as you. After those 3 to 5 years, you start to develop on different trajectories. And as I'll say the B-1, but aviation, you can either continue to fly more and continue to be the best aviator, which is going to weapons school, which is like sort of like the Top Gun of the Navy. The weapons school is like the Air Force's best of the best, where you fly tactically and become really good, then you become a commander. Or there's, we say, the non-weapon school side, which is maybe like your Air Force leadership side. You will go become a flight commander or work in an operations squadron and develop your leadership skills outside of flying and progress from there. That's the path I took. I took the leadership path because that's why I wanted to become an officer in the first place, was to lead. I didn't know as an aviator I wouldn't be leading right away. Unlike some Air Force jobs, if you work in finance or the gym or the airfield, you are a flight commander of about 30 to 100 airmen. So you're leading as a lieutenant. I didn't start leading until a captain when I went to the aircrew flight equipment squadron or flight, and I was their flight commander. So I was in charge of 30 airmen. That was my first time being a leader outside of the B-1. I wanted that job because I love working with airmen. I was one. And so that's where I took that journey. And that's sort of how my careers went from then. I went leadership, leadership. I did that deployment in 23, tried to cross train attack PO, came back to the B-1. I say came back, but I went back to 9th Bomb Squadron as a flyer, not an attached flyer. Became an instructor, went on some BTF deployments to Misawa, got better in the jet. Then I separated from the 9th Bomb Squadron. I moved up to a wing level job, which is where I'm at now. I run the exercise and plans for Dyess Air Force Base at the wing. So now I'm looking at big picture, what's going on outside of Dyess, because when you're an aviator, you're a funnel. You're looking down the funnel of your B-1. You don't see what's going on your base or at your MAGCOM
Mm-hmm.
or further. So now I'm at the base looking at MAGCOM and out, and my funnel is getting bigger. So right now I'm learning that. I'm learning, what is my wing commander getting orders from? How is he prioritizing where the B-1's at or what they're doing, right? We're at war right now. We're in Operation Epic Fury. We have the 9th Bomb Squadron deployed. So I'm at home right now as a attached leader in my shop doing exercise stuff for the base. So I've made that transition. I'm also right now, man, I'm focusing on retirement. So I'm trying to figure out how can I set myself up there now. So that's a whole new journey, right? I'm starting over again. I'm sort of starting over on how to start over, but be more prepared to start over as a retired guy.
Yeah.
How do I set myself up financially with First Form, coaching online, my business? How do I even learn about a business to begin with? That's new for me right now. I'm trying to learn how to do business stuff. How do I continue to lead by example, which is really hard? People don't understand, man, leadership is not easy. You know that. We talk about it all the time. It's hard because you have to do it every day.
Yeah.
So I'm at a point now where the past 5 years, so 5 years ago when I started my personal development journey to prioritize my life, balance is tough, right? But prioritize what's important to me. How do I maintain that? That's where I'm at now. I've done a lot of crazy things physically, hardship, like demanding on my body, that anybody could probably be like, dude, Manny, like, why don't you just like take a break? Like you probably see where you're at, you know,
Yeah.
like people are like, sir, why are you always running for an hour every morning? You know, like you don't have to. There's colonels out there that probably don't run, you know, like why are you still running? But you're like, I have, you know, like I have to
Yeah.
keep doing it. That is challenging. Like, how do I now with a fourth kid on the way and a 2-year-old continue to do all this movement, all this exercise, all this coaching? But that's the fun part. Like that's the challenge. Like I have to keep doing it. Like it's if I don't, I become like everybody else. But I've surrounded myself, you know, like Atomic Habits. You have the 3 people you surround yourself with, the many, the few, the powerful. I have surrounded myself with the powerful to where every day I look online on my social media, I see amazing people crushing it. And I'm like, dude, I can't stop. Or on the flip side, I get those messages from airmen and I screenshot them that say, sir, I just came across TikTok video. Thank you. I'm about to have a kid, you know, or I have the PT test coming up since we just changed our PT test. Thank you for your video. Like I have like, and now that's the new for me. I'm not doing it for me anymore. I'm doing it for people. Like I'm doing it for everybody else.
Yeah.
I have done all my hard stuff. I have ran my marathons. I'll still do more, but now I do it for them. Everything now has transitioned to the people. You know how it is as a leader, you come to that point where you're not leading yourself anymore, you're leading the people.
Yeah.
That's really important. I still have to do me, which I've established it in my habits and my routine and my discipline, but it's not my focus because it's like muscle memory now, right? Like working out, eating good,
Yeah.
you know, drinking my water. That's all habits. I need to show everybody now and help them build those habits. That's
Yeah.
all new. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
you 3 things, like you talked about business, you talked about life after the Army. I'm sorry, the Air Force. I'm thinking about life after the Army,
Yeah.
right? And everybody's going to get out of the service at some point, even if they do 4 to 6 years, you know, or they do 40
Yeah.
years, right? So there's like life, right? And you said, how do I maintain that? How do I sustain that, right? The part about fatherhood and being a dad, and you know, you've made you've flipped the switch in that area
Yeah.
recently over the
Yeah.
last few years too, right? Where you've
Mm-hmm.
not just had another kid, but like you flipped that switch of I'm gone all the time, I'm deployed, I'm trying to be the best, you know,
Yeah.
fighter I can be, to I'm trying to take some of those skills that made me good in the
Mm-hmm.
service or good as a leader. I want to apply those to be good as a dad.
Yeah.
What are some of the ones what was that tipping point that told you
Yeah.
it was time to do it? And then when you did do it, back to the starting all over again, you know, if you
Mm-hmm.
were like,
Yeah.
what were the first things that you did in order to kind of make that move into fatherhood and being a better dad?
Yeah. It's always a hard one to talk about because I feel bad, you know, like you probably went through those points in your life for training and all that and was the priority. And my, what's, man, it's hard to talk about because I always feel bad for my oldest son who went through me being gone so much. Like Connor, he's matured so fast because he saw so much of me doing the military thing.
Mm-hmm.
His first like 5 years, I think I was gone 3 of it when I did like a lot of the math, like insane.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 years ago in 21, what helped me make that shift was being around people who prioritize themselves for their family. So I work for First Form. They have an event every year at Summer Smash at headquarters at St. Louis. I went to one and I saw firsthand what people look like in real life that lead by example. In the military, it is very hard to find that because it's just so busy of a lifestyle that fitness and exercise get put in the back burner. But I saw people who were able to do busy things and make fitness and health and wellness their priority. And that's where I learned about leading by example. Take care of yourself, being there for your family. Because I saw those people there do it, and I was like, man, if they can do it, why can't I? You know, like why am I using the excuse of the military being the busy for me to not prioritize my health like so many people in the military do? It was normal. Like I think it still is normal. We're trying to make that shift. And so when I came back from there, I said, you know, like Andy Frisella talks about on his podcast, to be selfless, you have to be selfish. It's my number 2 leadership trait, right? Like I found out to be better for my kids now and my wife, I need to be better for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. I went all in on myself. I did 75 hard. I became the best version of myself. And that time allowed me to now give way more time to my family.
Amen.
Like thousandfold more time. But I also was at a point in my career where, just like anything else in the military, I put in a lot of time. I had to take some back. Like a lot of people don't do that. They think the military is going to give you time to take back. It's not. It's going to keep taking it
Yeah.
until you put your foot down and go, I'm taking leave. I'm going on this run. I'm going to PT. I'm going to pick up my kids from school. If you don't tell it that, it will never let you do it. It'll fill that time for you. So many people just let it fill the time.
Or you'll
And
fill
they
it with
think,
your
like,
own head, in your
dude,
own brain.
yeah,
You're going to be like, you can come up with 1,000 excuses why
yeah,
you shouldn't leave the office at
yep,
1,500. You're like, that's way too early. I got 100 things to
oh,
do. Yeah, that will be the case every single day.
every day, yep. And so once I took care of myself, I was able to make that flip, start over again on giving back to my family. And so let's see, 21, JoJo was in 3, Connor was 5 or 6. So I started doing more with them, like especially the gym stuff, like they saw me get better. They started getting better in the gym. Then that's where I started over again on myself and my family. And, like I can say I put the B-1 on the back burner because it wasn't a priority for me. It wasn't a priority for me to be flying all the time because I knew my role in the military as a captain going to be major, that I was a leader now and a manager and a supervisor in these jobs. My family started to come first. So I talk a lot to airmen about not really balancing everything, but prioritizing what's important throughout the year and making it, and then knowing where the other things fall off. So like one of my favorite examples is Matthew McConaughey and Ed Milet. They talk about, like, Ed Milet asked Matthew McConaughey, like, hey dude, how do you like prioritize your life? And McConaughey talks about, it's like a red, yellow, green card, the way he does his 5 important things. If he's acting, right, his finances and acting career are going to be in the green, but maybe his friendship's in the red because it's not a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe his fitness is in the yellow because he's not working out all the time. But then when a movie's done, he like reestablishes, he looks around and goes, oh, I need to pull up my friends. Let's put them in the green.
Yeah.
Let me text a couple buddies, see how they're doing. Let me work on my fitness, put it in the green. Maybe my acting goes to yellow. That's how I look at life now. I look at it in a macro scale, like 3-year scale. What is my priority these next 3 years? And I section it all out into 6-month chunks. Too many people try to do everything in a week: family, faith, fitness, finance, work in a week. And then they get upset because maybe they didn't get to do it all in 1 week. Like, dude, you have to do it in years.
Yeah.
It's hard for people to sit back and do that. It's hard for people to sit back and go, oh, I'm going to prioritize fitness for 6 months. Like, how am I going to do that? What about my work? Dude, your work's still going to be there. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going anywhere. But that was a huge starting over for me shift there. Big picture, 3 years, 5 years. What are my priorities? Like, these next 3 years priority is setting up for retirement. So how am I doing that? Business. Maybe the B-1 isn't a priority, but my leadership is. And so that's where that transition comes in. I think that answered your question.
Yeah, it definitely did. And it got to the next one, which is when you look at like setting yourself up, not just, for like financially after the military, but it's fulfillment. Like, what do you feel like is your your gift to give back to people after the service? Is it in helping them with their health? It's helping, people that are maybe in the service or outside the service that are trying to manage being good at what they do and also be a good dad or be a good mom. What are some of the things that you're saying, this is where I'm going to get the most fulfillment, over the next couple of years? Because you don't have to wait until after you're out of the service. You can start doing it a little bit. Where are you getting that fulfillment from?
Yeah. So right now it's establishing my niche, right? So in the business world, especially anything online, you have to have a niche. There's a saying, if you try to please everybody, you please nobody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same as in the coaching community online. If you start trying to coach everybody, you're going to coach nobody because nobody's going to think you really want to coach with them. So I have to find my niche. My niche is dads in military. Like, those are the people I primarily focus my coaching to in all my videos and my reels and my TikTok, because that's who can relate to me. So right now I do a lot of coaching with military because I think these young airmen need it, man. They need to be pushed. Every airman that comes out to my house for a super hard workout, I know they leave there and they go, that was amazing. It's because they're not pushed. They're not pushed physically every day, especially in the Air Force where, like I said, it's a job. It's a business. You're not sweating at the end of some jobs in the Air Force where you're working on a computer or you're checking finances for people's bank statements, or you're working at a gym or a DFAC. So I get airmen from all over the space. I do everything, work at the gym, working on aviation records management. We're on a computer. They
Mm-hmm.
come out to my house and they get done and they're like, that's the fire. That's the fire I needed to continue. And so
Yeah.
that's where I'm at now, is giving as much back to the airmen and bringing them into that world outside of their squadron, or outside of that few, right? That may not be motivational, but they know it's out there at Dias, because Dias is a tough base. It's in the middle in West Texas. A lot of airmen come here with bad reports, especially on social media, where they talk about how boring Dias is. So every airman I see, I make videos all the time. Like, if you're at Dias Air Force Base, come to my house and work out. Two new airmen come to my house this weekend and work out. I haven't, that's where I'm at now. The future, I would love to, as I get out, we're going to try to move to Florida. So there's going to be military bases there. I have plenty of military people to work with. The dads is also a world I'm really excited, because it's needed. Like, that masculinity father is needed. And so I want to help fathers and sons build that relationship again through hard spiritual bonding, and so a challenge for me is the spiritual side of fatherhood. There's some good
Mm-hmm.
books I'm reading out there right now. I think it's A Modern Day Night, which gave me a lot of ideas on what we need to bring to small towns. These brotherhoods of fathers and sons, to bring that bond of masculinity back. So that's like another niche I love working with, because I've seen it in my life.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for my son, I say, as that masculine father, to show him things. And now I do. I try to show him, like, do hard workouts, be respectful, but more intentional than maybe what I was doing before. So,
Yeah. You're dabbling on a lot of things that, without even saying the words, those words I want to say, conviction, those words I want to say is attitude, a positive attitude. Every time you send me one of those small videos and you're like, hey, I listened to one of the episodes and, like, here's what I think. Like, it's inspirational. It's like, man, I can't wait to do another one, because Manny's going to send me a video and tell me, tell me what he thinks. Right. And so you're already doing a lot of these things. How important is that attitude to being a good dad, or to being good in the service? Like, is that one of the areas that you first start talking about, attitude and setting a great example?
mm-hmm. Yeah, it all ties into that. Like you said, it ties into that example. Like, the way I do things, the intent behind everything is super important for everything I do. So, like, my leadership philosophy, I take into everything. It's like my guiding light to all the purpose and intent and action and, conviction to everything I do. I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
If I do one thing, I'm going to make sure that one thing is probably the best I can do. Same as when I fly the B-1, right? I make sure when I'm in the B-1 with my guys, I'm the best OSO or DSO or aviator I can be for those 4 hours.
Yeah.
When I go program a workout, or an airman comes over, I got to make sure I'm fully committed to that workout. Or if I'm picking my kids up from school, I'm fully committed to picking them up.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all the small things you can be good at and have good results, where some people may think they're not as important because they are so small. They're not focused on them.
Yeah.
But, we talk, you say it in your video, just be 1% better every day. Do the small things great. Like, those things change everything.
That's something I've been thinking about a lot. Is one, I'm trying to learn how to use AI a lot better, right? I'm trying, you start thinking about, like, there's so many apps that are out there. There's so much product that's out there. There's so many services that people are providing that are out there. But what I'm thinking about is, like, what is the most valuable way to help people? Is it through a service? Is it through a product? Is it through a document? Or is it through simply demonstrating? Like, demonstrating. But I've also caught myself saying, because I love this phrase, which is, demonstrating is no longer good enough. Because there's a lot of people where you could just demonstrate the right way to do it as a leader.
Yeah.
And your people can be like, yeah, but I'm not doing that. Yeah. Manny does it. Like, Manny eats well. He PTs all the time. He does these things. You're in charge of me. I get it. But I'm not going to do that. Right. And so that's where I get into the demonstrating is no longer good enough. You must demonstrate it, and you must hold people accountable, in a leadership role. What are your thoughts on service products versus demonstrating the right way to do could be the most valuable thing that you provide?
Just leading by example is man, it's yeah, is the only way because I think it's always going to be there. And that's why having the relationships, building the trust, you do that first. And then when you do it, I think it connects more with the people. Like you're saying, those airmen or those people who see you do something and don't do it, they don't have trust. They haven't built a relationship yet. They don't have the conviction in why you're doing it. So any leader can demonstrate how to do something to anybody below them. And the reason those people probably aren't going to do it is because they don't have trust in them or they don't have a relationship with them to want to
Mm,
do it.
mm,
So you have to start there. That's my biggest thing is nothing will get done without relationships or trust. If they don't trust you, you can show them, right, like you said, how to solve or cure cancer.
yeah.
But if they don't trust you or believe you with that conviction that that's the cure, they're not going to do it. They're going to try to find some other source or document or paper or AI to show them because those things don't have trust or relationships. AI doesn't have trust. A
Mm,
document doesn't build trust. It tells you it from probably experience, right? Or knowledge. But sometimes you read something to learn, test it, and then maybe build that trust from that learning. So for me, that's my third one, build relationships based off trust and care. Because if I'm leading, but they don't trust me, they're not going to do it. But that takes time. And that's probably the biggest leadership excuse I hear is I don't have time, right? Like commanders or colonels don't have time to get to know the guys to below them to help them. Well, you've shown it. If I just go on a 60-minute jog at a 10-minute pace, I can build a lot of trust in that hour.
yeah.
Like you talk about it, you go on runs and talk to people. That's the secret. That's why I have people come to my house to work out so I can build those relationships there. I can't go to the gym during the duty day and build trust with these airmen or relationships because we have two completely different jobs. The one area that we all have commonality in, probably in the military or in life, is probably health and wellness and exercise because we all have to do it. There's only one way to get better at it. You got to get uncomfortable. You got to challenge yourself, like you can't eat shitty food, etc. If I can start there building trust, opening up to them, sharing my journey, they will open up to me. And then the next time I go to their shop and tell them or show them how to eat healthy, they'll do it more effectively because they know me. They
Yeah.
know Manny. I think it makes it easy for me sharing all my stuff online because we're building relationships online. Like I'm building relationships with these airmen already. To where if I go into a shop on Dias, there's probably 3 airmen out of 100, probably more that know me from TikTok. I have that trust. I have that relationship already. Their flight commander or squadron commander probably doesn't. I
Mm,
probably have more trust relationship with so many more airmen on Dias than their squadron commander because of my social media, because I put myself out there. And I also go out and about. I do
yeah.
those handshakes. I take those 5 or 10 minutes in the gym to talk to an airman that's working out that I don't know. If you have the relationships, the demonstration I think sticks a lot harder.
Manny, that was so good that I don't even want to like keep going. Like I just want to. I'm just gonna hit the rewind button on it like 3 or 4 times, and I'm gonna listen to that last 3 minutes two or three different times. If you take that to the next one, the next level, right? And this is kind of where I want to land the plane with me and you with this episode, because with this episode specifically is if you're somebody that's having a hard time right now and they're having a hard time, like you're making it look easy, how do I even
Yep.
get started? Or I'm getting started, but like after a couple of weeks I kind of lose that fire. Or after a couple months, something new, some new shiny object or
Yeah.
some new thing kind of takes over, and those 5 things you said about family and work and health, something becomes way more important. And all of a sudden you start
Yeah.
skipping the runs, you don't eat as well, you're not sleeping as good. And then you're wondering why your attitude goes to shit because of those things. What is your advice for the people that are having like a hard time getting started or a
Mhm.
hard time keeping it going?
So this is, I say the downside of when I get asked this question because I'm very direct with it now. Before, I would give you a bunch of excuses, right? The old Manny would give you excuses like, oh, it's fine. Life's going to knock you down, or don't worry about your health right now. Like, that's what old Manny would say because he wasn't leading by example in those areas. You probably have those conversations too, where even if it's your kids, they're like, you're like, just go do it. Like
Yeah.
the airmen that know me, that tell me these, I don't want to call them excuses, but these reasons will know my answer is truthful because I mean it. I go, you have to do it. You have to take ownership. The biggest thing I see with a lot of airmen when they tell me their leadership is bad is I tell them, have you said anything about that? Or have you done anything to help that? A bad leader isn't going to know they're bad. They don't know they're a bad leader. Everybody just thinks they're a bad leader because that's how that person leads. Unless you as the person will go out there and show them. And so in this example, if someone's having a hard time starting something, you have to start. Like, momentum is key. I heard a line. I think it's like persistency is what keeps you going. Consistency is what gets you results. And there's something else after. And that was pretty cool to hear because you have to start it knowing you are going to fail and fumble and fall off. I get so excited when people tell me they hit a roadblock or they fall off because getting back on is just as exciting. Like,
Yeah.
I get excited when I fall off of a workout program or I gain weight or I miss a run because I can start over and get better results.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that right there is so exciting to me when somebody tells me they're having a hard, like if somebody says like, oh, I had a kid, like when a dad reached out to me, I had a kid, I didn't get to exercise. I go, dude, I'm so excited because you get to start over again and you get to do it again. Like that should motivate people. Like, I'm pumped right now telling somebody like, dude, if you fall off, guess what? You get to wake up and start over again. You're not dead. You don't get to not do it again, right? Like, it's not like when you fall off of the horse runs away and you never get to get back on it again. Like, dude, you get to get back on it. And guess what? You get to get back on it better than the last time because you learned maybe one thing on why you fell off. Maybe you learned, oh, maybe I shouldn't try to run 5 miles today because it's going to be hard. Maybe I do 3 and then 3.5 and then 4 and then 5. Or I learned, maybe I can't work out at 5 a.m. Maybe I work out at 5:30 and get that extra 30 minutes and work out for 30 minutes and then help my wife and the kids get ready. You make small adjustments every time you fail. And over, like we said, the macro, over the 5 years, your life is going to be changed. And I say that because my life is changed from all those starting and stops and forks in the road and, broken horses or failures. It's all led to this, like,
Yeah.
I want to be here if I succeeded on all those.
Yeah.
I want
no
to be
doubt.
here if I stopped. Every successful person is successful because they failed. Like, that. If there's a successful person in your life that said it was easy, they're not successful or they're not a good leader. Every leader has troubles. They have hardships. I think that's what makes great leaders is you don't stop. You just keep going,
Yeah, that's what makes them humble, and that's what makes them.
Yeah.
That's what makes them, have some type of empathy, and people want to be around them because they're willing to admit that they've made mistakes, or they know that they're going to understand making mistakes.
The biggest thing I see on that journey is when people get comfortable and they settle into this new them. That's when they go backwards because you can't stay still on a journey. A lot of people will start progress and they'll get comfortable with that progress and they sort of try to maintain it, right? Like they try to maintain this flat line of like, I'm comfortable here. I'm just going to do this. Dude, life doesn't work like that. Life is going to still go forward. Your enemies are still going to move forward. Your competitors are still going to move forward. So hypothetically, there is no even. You're either going backwards or forwards. And Andy talks a lot about that on his podcast because as a business guy, like if you're in the business world, if you're fine with the profit margin you're making, you're failing because your competitors are going to make more money or they're going to do something new. So I think that's where a lot of people struggle is once they start, they get comfortable. And obviously complacency kills, right? That's my fourth leadership trait. Challenge the road in front of you, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. So we hit all 4 of them. Number 1 was lead by example. I didn't specify it, but that's number 1. And everything you do, that's the main one. Asterisk, everything you do. But challenge the road in front of you, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. Everything that's great is hard. Like Kobe, Jordan, Tom, they talk about it all the time, man. Tom Brady talked about it. A lot of kids these days want to be pushed to their comfortability level.
Mm-hmm.
they don't really push back. You know, the coach you had on, the flag football guy you had on, you know, he
Coach
probably sees it
Saunders.
all the time
Hmm.
with these. Yeah, he probably sees it all the time with these kids where they're getting better. And then they hit this point where they're like, they think they're really good, so they stop wanting to be pushed better. But he is established. How do I push them further, right?
Yeah.
To where they're not going to break, or that if they break, they grow. That's pretty important.
Yeah. You've said it a couple times like throughout the whole thing, but can you summarize for us again your those four leadership principles you said? One is
Yep. Lead by example in everything you do. That's the one area most leaders don't do. They are good at maybe being a B-1 wizard or being a ranger or being a commander, but they think they don't have to be good in the other things because they're good at one thing.
yeah.
There's a phrase, you know, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Hmm.
If you want to challenge yourself as a leader, be good at everything. Be a good husband. Be a good father. Is it hard? You know, it's super hard to
Yeah.
try to be good at everything, but
Hmm.
that's the challenge. That's the excitement. Where am I falling off? Number two, to be selfless, you have to be selfish. To help others, man, you can't do it if you aren't taking care of yourself. I can't expect an airman to get 100% on their PT test if I'm not. That's why my current struggle is maintaining now that dang rapport of getting 100% on every PT test.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to take an airman to lunch for getting 100 if I'm not getting 100. So that's number two.
Okay.
Number three, build relationships based off trust and care. I can't solve world hunger if they don't trust me to give them the right cure to solve it. But at the bottom level, I can't trust an airman to fix those small mistakes if they don't have trust in me that I'm going to help them or be there for them if they mess up. And then number four, challenge the road in front of you, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. This is just that complacency one. Like if I want to continue to grow, I need to keep challenging myself. And then obviously it's a pyramid, so you have to start with one to continue to the others. I can't just skip to build relationships because I can't build relationships if I'm not leading by example because they're not going to trust me.
Yeah. So the pyramid is lead by example at the bottom. That's the bottom of the,
Yeah.
you know, right. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool. Hey, what can I do for you? Like, what can I do to help you in this journey that you're on, you know, and your preparation, you know, for getting ready to be out of the service and pushing these things forward?
Man, I just keep making videos. Don't stop your podcast.
Yeah.
Because that's how I'm going to keep getting better. I need you to send me a picture of all your books so I can put them on my repertoire. But I see a few that we've read. Like you always talk about good to great on yours. There's a few back there that I love that you reference.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've been working on I've been working
yeah.
on like the books, not just like the books as a whole, but like the categorizing them and kind of getting them into like a list. I've been working on this list for a long time. So it's like, depending on the audience, you know, they're
okay,
kind of
yeah.
different. Like there were books that I feel like were those books that I used and got me to a point as like say a lieutenant or a captain. And then there was the field grade books, you know, and like the four the disciplines of execution. And then then there becomes like the leadership books, and then there becomes like strategic leadership books, you know?
Yeah.
And then a lot of things fall into the self-help, you know, area or the health area, born to run or something, you know, something like that, or eat to run, you know, and you're pulling like little nuggets from each of them. But what I'm finding now about books and about reading and about product is that what is the common thing, or what are the common connections, the dots that are getting connected between say all of them or through the 50 of them. So like if there was something that every leadership book kind of talks about, I think your leadership principles right there. Like there's probably not a leadership book out there that doesn't say in some way, shape, or form, leading by example is you know, is the way to go. No one's out there saying you don't need to lead by example. No one out there is saying that you don't need to worry about being uncomfortable. You know, like you don't need to challenge yourself. Like no one's saying that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. The biggest one that people always will ask me about is that to be selfless, you have to be selfish one. They always see that one as very like selfish, right? Like, and so a lot of people think leadership is selfless, which, you know, like if you think of Simon Sinek, right? Leaders eat last. So a lot of people will try to twist that one up on me and be like, oh, so you're saying don't care about your people? But if you understand it, you know, and you you develop that leadership, you understand leaders eat last. That leader can eat last because he has taken care of himself to be last.
Yeah.
That's like the hidden gem when leaders do that. Like, I can provide and be selfless, like you said, because I'm so, taken care of, like I don't have to worry about things on my end where I can give more to those people. And so that's like the one where whenever I read them off on my podcast, I know those people are always going to be like, hey, this number 2, like I've heard it a different way, like put your mask on first, like that's like
Yeah.
another expression. The reason I keep it so direct is because I need them to know you matter. Like you are the reason. And so you have to be there.
Yeah.
What's up, dog?
Like I get into that when I have to explain it to different audiences or to people more, like a little bit more in detail, is if you say, if I say like the 4 things in my life that are the most important thing is my health, my family, my relationships, and then my contribution, in that order. And they're like, well, why do you put your health above your family?
Oh, yeah.
And it's because if your health deteriorates, you're not going to be at your best for your family.
Yeah.
And if your health is like, if you got a shitty night's sleep and you didn't eat, like you're going to be grouchy the next day. And if that becomes a pattern, you're not being a good dad, you're not being a good husband, like, so your health has to be, you're like, well, I'm putting my family first for the next year and I'm just going to skip being healthy, and it's like, but it doesn't need to be that literal. Also, it doesn't like, you can put your family first, right? And have your health be number 2 and do all the things that your family needs you to do before you walk out the door and go out on your run or go to the gym. Like you can do that. And that works best for you and puts you in the right mindset, then do it. Right. And then do it. And, but you got to figure out what are your values. They have to be so clear to you. And so that you can explain it in both ways and don't get knocked off that horse, like you said. And as soon as somebody knocks you off it, you're like, okay, no more going to the gym because I got to put my family first. Nobody said that, right? Yeah. What, is there any areas that you had hoped we would talk about today that you wish we would have talked about?
No, I think some of the big ones we hit, like my early career, what I guess led me to leadership where I'm at now. And the biggest ones I mentioned earlier, which are like the grit, starting over. And I think it was just being a sponge, early in my career, I wasn't taking in those leadership traits early. I just sort of remembered them as you started learning them later on.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I think a lot of airmen or young military people need to remember is you're not going to be given every leadership tool. You have to experience them and then understand it's not just it's not a book. There's no key to leadership. There's no like, hey, here's how to become a great leader. You borrow, you steal, you learn all these techniques, you put them in your toolbox, and then at some point in your life, they're going to be used. That's what probably another, I say, hardship that I wanted to bring up was my first time being a leader. When I talk about that flight commander for the aircrew flight equipment shop, I went into that leadership role with 3 leadership traits. It was like exercise, do PT, and meet people. But that was my first leadership role as an officer, and I did not do good. I struggled. And I look back at that experience, and I tell a lot of those airmen to this day now that see me, I go, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, this is the Manny you saw then. That was the leader. He was way different. But they tell me, they go, hey, you were still good. We knew you were learning. We appreciated what you gave us, but I knew it wasn't the leader I am now. So I always use that example to a lot of young leaders. Like, it's a toolbox. Like, you're only going to learn what mold of leader fits per person. And that's one thing really quick to hit. As you know, everybody's led differently. You can't use the same hammer on different nail for every person. Like, that's hard.
Yeah.
I think that's where the relationship comes in, where if I know Johnny doesn't like to be yelled at for a debrief, but Susan, like, she doesn't mind if I can just like tell her what she did wrong. Like, that's hard leadership, is understanding every person is different.
Yeah. Hey, I want to say that thanks for, answering the thousands of questions that I had. And, and a lot of the things you answered, you went ahead and told me about. I didn't even have to ask the question. So I really appreciate to be able to learn so much from you over this conversation, right? And by no means was there an attempt to kind of get everything out of your head that's out there. And so, like, you know, what you said, I asked you, like, what are the things that I can do for you? One of the things that you can keep doing for us is keep putting it out there so that we get those little nuggets every day, you know, those little habits, those little things to learn a little bit through leading by example, right? When you keep doing it, like there are people that are watching, and there are people like me that are learning from it. So thanks for continuing to do that. Even if there is something that we left out in this conversation, one, they'll come out in others. They'll come out in other episodes that you'll do that are out there. So keep doing those. And I really appreciate this last couple of hours, you know, with you to learn it. I also know that this isn't the last time I'll talk to you. This isn't the last conversation.
For sure.
You know, we'll do one of them on a long run where we're both out on a run, and you know, and it's like, hey, I got a question on how to do this. So that being said, I wanted you to have the last word, and we'll wrap this thing up.
I just want to say thanks. It's been a fun bucket list for me. You know, like all the episodes I've listened to of yours. I still tell everybody about the first experience we had when I messaged you, and you like Instagram called me like right after that. And I was like, oh shoot, he's calling me. Oh no, what do I do? Like, I was like all nervous. And it was like on my phone with like bad reception. And I still remember that. And it was just something I take away as just like that personal experience. And since then, it's always been fun to see where we are on the podcasting journey, you know, because that's like the relationship we have, you know, the two completely different military careers we have. It's fun to see the commonality of the podcast growth, you know, like what did Matt talk about? Oh, okay, he talked about this. Ooh, let me try to ask this guy this one. Or, oh, okay, he threw that in there. And that's what I appreciate the most, is just learning outside of the military and how I continue to do that better. And just for anybody else, it's the biggest thing is once you start understanding, if you can understand you're going to fail, it makes it easier when it does happen to start again. A lot of people are so scared to start something to fail when they should expect the failure to happen and then know how to bounce back. Like, that's why I talk about that TACPO thing, because I did the exact opposite of that. I did not expect to fail. So when I did, it hit me hard. But if I just would have like not went in with that plan B, but understood as I was going through, like, hey, maybe if this happens, but you know, I learned from it. So, well,
thanks for doing this today, brother. So many people are going to benefit. We all are going to be a little bit, at least 1%, 1.5% better than listening to that. And if for no other reason, then I'm fired up going into today. And I'm looking forward to watching the soccer game here in a minute and be fired up for my family for the rest of the day. So thanks, brother.
Nice.
Awesome, man.
Nice.
Awesome. Go pick up your kids and have your second half of the workout 75 hard today.
I'm pumped.
All right, brother. Have a great rest of your day.
Nice.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, sir.
Bye.
Later. Lead by example in everything you do. That's the one area most leaders don't do. There's a phrase, you know, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. If you want to challenge yourself as a leader, be good at everything. Be a good husband. Be a good father. Number 2, to be selfless, you have to be selfish. To help others, man, you can't do it if you aren't taking care of yourself. So that's number 2. Number 3, build relationships based off trust and care. And then number 4, challenge the road in front of you, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. If I want to continue to grow, I need to keep challenging myself. And then obviously it's a pyramid, so you have to start with one to continue to the others. I can't just skip to build relationships. So I can't build relationships if I'm not leading by example, because they're not going to trust me.
Thanks for listening today. I hope we sparked some thoughts about the people that have inspired you to be who you are today. I hope you share some of your thoughts, and better yet, demonstrate them for the people in your life. Our pursuit is to get a little bit better every day. Progress equals small victories stacked on top of each other, building like compound interest. Keep stacking these positive habits. Habits like getting up early, working your butt off, learning something new, being positive, and surrounding yourself with phenomenal people. Please share your comments at the links in the show notes and DM us at Teach Me to Fish podcast on Instagram or Facebook. Looking forward to our next conversation.
don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.